We're out here making content for the people. Everyone's bored. We're just, sometimes you just gotta turn on the camera and you gotta give them something to look at. You gotta give them something to ponder about, something to think about, something to grab their attention away from the things that they don't want to think about. So much internet content is really used as an escape, me included. Whenever I don't want to think about something I'm thinking about right now, whether it's an anxious thought, thoughts about the future I don't want to think about, past rumination, past mistakes, or things I regret, or things maybe that like I have the desire to do, but then I also can't bring myself to do it. So I go to the internet for escape. I used to be on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook a lot. I consider those like the big three of social medias. I used to be on those a lot. And then I ended up quitting or just getting off the apps. It's not like crack, like um I just decided to get off those apps because I didn't think they were serving me, and I thought I was spending a lot of time and energy consuming content that, I didn't really enjoy or even remembered, maybe one in every 15 videos or something worth remembering. Um, but that's not the point. So I found that even after getting off those apps, I still find other ways to escape reality or, consume things that aren't serving me. Like instead of going on Instagram a lot, maybe I'll just go on YouTube, And for a while, I was on YouTube Shorts, and then I stopped going on YouTube Shorts. But now I'm just like, sometimes I'll find myself just compulsively scrolling like the main page, like the recommended and all that, just trying to find something to like grab my attention. It's almost like I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Like the feeling of waiting for something in reality to grab your attention, like waiting for a reason to be present and aware of where you are. Like stepping outside of the mind, outside of the thoughts, outside of your head, and just being in the moment. We find ourselves not really having the compulsion to do that. We get bored or we start thinking about the past or the future, and we take ourselves out of the present moment a lot of the time. And a lot of the time it happens uncontrollably. I think um, a lot of people would find that most of their I don't want to speak generally about a lot of people, but like think about if you can relate to this. Like when you go on Instagram or you go on TikTok or on your phone at all or any type of entertainment, it's almost like you're being pulled along, like you're riding a horse, but then the horse is controlling all of your actions. You have no control. Like, you're scrolling on Instagram and you kind of feel like you want to get off, but then you also don't really feel satisfied. It's like you keep going, you're waiting to find that one like piece of media, that one photo, that one video that will satisfy you, and it never really comes. And that's how I find myself getting into like when I used to do like 2 hour, 3 hour binges on like Reels or TikTok or switching between them all the time. Like it's funny, like sometimes like I would go on Instagram and then I would swipe a little bit, and then I'd close the app, and then I'd immediately press Instagram. But it's like it's this weird, anxious, like constantly looking for stimulation and never just taking a second to breathe. Like I'm consuming Instagram, I close an app, I immediately need to open another. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling of just like bouncing from app to app, and there's a very low like time you take in between going to each app, kind of thing. Um, I feel like that's something a lot of people can relate to. But one thing that I find very helpful is reminding myself that I am not my thoughts or my desires or my compulsions or my regrets. Um, Most of this, well, all of in my opinion, all this mental activity is like uncontrollable. It's like a automatic process based on all the events you've ever experienced up to this moment. Like, like I find if you try to even try to predict your next thought, if you really like sit there and try to predict your next thought, don't think about what your next thought is going to be. Predict your next thought. You sit there and you do it. you'll find that you really can't predict your next thought. And, you start to realize that these thoughts are appearing uncontrollably. This, sense of being the one that's thinking mm, is not present when thoughts aren't. Like, that sense of being the thinker only comes when thoughts appear. That sense of being the one in control of mental activity. Um, but being present and mindful, you know, to me, is a great way to eliminate a lot of these stressors. And it's not even like these thoughts are never going to go away. Like, it's not about, like, a lot of people, for example, when you meditate, think that the point of meditation is to clear your mind of thoughts, but that's not the case. It is to almost separate yourself from the thoughts, view them from a third person perspective, from an objective perspective. And, this helps a lot with emotional regulation. Like, a big practice that I would recommend to a lot of people is when negative emotion arises, whether it's in the form of sadness or anger or envy or other things that you can think of that invoke negative emotion, practice noticing them as they arise and then noticing the storyline that your mind puts behind them. Like, the emotion comes first and then the storyline takes place. And a big way to kind of cut the half life of this emotion being present in your conscious awareness is to take a second to disconnect from the story and really focus on the physical sensation that the negative emotion is bringing, or even positive emotion. You can do this with positive emotion too. I only recommend it with negative emotion because a lot of people have the desire to get rid of negative emotion when it appears, but we actually end up tricking ourselves. We end up by thinking about it more and more, we feel the negative emotion to stay within us longer. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing that it shows up, but it loses a lot of its like grip on you when you recognize it for what it is. Um, and I think if you really recognize mental activity for what it is and you kind of detach from it, if that makes sense, like you disidentify with the mind, you will be a lot happier because you'll kind of see things from a more true perspective. You'll just, you won't grab on to every thought as much. Like, remember that your thoughts aren't truth. You can challenge your own thoughts and you can criticize your own thoughts in a way that's productive to you, where you use the mind as a tool instead of being like a slave to the mind. Instead of being controlled by your mind and your compulsions, you're able to kind of control the mind and recognize when compulsions come up that maybe you don't necessarily want to partake in. Whether it's, a video game addiction, some type of drug addiction, anything like that. Notice that as it arises, feel kind of the physical sensations of this kind of state of being, and then let it flow through you. That's really all I gotta say. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a great night. Peace.